Every once in a while, you will come across new thing and say to yourself, this is awesome, and then immerse yourself in the culture of new thing. But Baron's War is a game. According to the company that published 2nd edition, it launched to tremendous success. And according to Wargame Soldiers and Strategies magazine, it's pretty fun. However, according to YouTube, this is the only guy who has played it. Let me repeat, this is a very successful game with multiple miniature lines, but is also miniature agnostic for everyone who already owns knights and fantasy stuff. And it had so much financial success, they made multiple supplements into a 2nd edition that has like 8 YouTube videos and a Facebook group worth of internet presence. And that's not even what this video is about. It's about the supplement, Warhost, which adds fantasy battles, most notably large creature and spellcasting rules. And if you search specifically for Warhosts on YouTube, there are count them, two videos about it. A painting guide that is sponsored, and a long-form unscripted podcast, which, put bluntly, is boring. All of this introduction is to say, let me tell you about the wargame I've been playing. The Baron's War occurred in roughly the 13th century medieval Europe. This was peak knights in shiny armor fighting duels and tournaments, and weirdly there aren't many popular wargames set in it. They tend to lean towards Napoleonic and World War eras. I mean, sure, once you add fantasy, you're outdone in popularity by, say, Age of Sigmar, but Age of Sigmar doesn't even have classic dwarves. You have to choose between steampunk and berserk. This is unique and interesting, but unique does not respect my D&D menu. If you want your knights to charge a troll, this is a perfect game. If you want your dwarf army to resolve a generation-old grudge with elves, this is the game for you. If you want elemental spirit to get killed by 4 men with a crossbow, this is the game for you. I don't want to sound boring, but the vibe is epic fantasy battles. Go watch a troll eat a lord. I bought a PDF of the rules from their websites, then printed them out local print shop and shoved them in a 1-inch binder. The whole thing cost me about $60 between bundling the PDFs, about $30, and the print shop charging about $30. But it's cheaper if you don't want a physical copy like a hipster. Keep in mind, the game is miniature agnostic, meaning this is the only expense that has to go to the company, which depending on where you buy is either Hobby and Hicks or Wargames Atlantic. The game keeps everyone on a pre-human power scale. If you are not making the legendary hero Wolfgar who can take 10 wounds and kill 20 men alone. There are named commanders, but they are just that, commanders. They're notable for commanding units, not for being exceptional peak unkillable men. It's a D10 system. I actually ordered some new D10s off Amazon because I like when my 8 rolls use identical dice. A single attack action is a little something like this. I charge. I use an action to take a attack back reaction. I have 4 guys in range, so I roll 4 attacks against my attack score of 6. 3 hits. 3 defense dice. I use my Lord's Banner to inspire them, so I'm rolling 4 dice against 3 hits, going for a score of 7. 1 fails, that unit is dead. I have 3 guys left to attack back, and I'm unlucky, so none of them hit. Now that the combat is over, you are pushed back and a morale penalty is applied. This is not a system that is about maximizing crunch. You can add abilities to your units, but they're capped by your soldiers' importance, so your commander can have 2 or 3 abilities, but your men get 1. But for rules, the best part is alternate activation, so you aren't waiting 10 minutes for the other guy to move all of his units. I move a guy, you move a guy, the way it's meant to be, like chess. The rules are a pretty light read. The main struggle I find is keeping my math straight in list building. I suggest a spreadsheet that can be set to do the math for you and auto-update totals. There's also a fan-made retinue builder that only works for the base game, so no Warhost. Perhaps the best inclusion in the game is the 3d6 skirmish scenario tables. This is a little homebrewed, but what me and the other guy who I play with have been doing is we each roll 3d6, which is for the deploy table and the scenario. Then we roll a d10. The higher chooses which roll goes to the scenario and deploy, so they can grab a scenario that gives them an advantage, where the loser gets the first deployment of terrain. We then do alternating terrain placements till the table is ready, then deploy our units normally. But without homebrew, you're still rolling for a random scenario, which helps a lot with the battles not looking the same. I will note, I don't know if the authors are aware of this, but 3d6 does create a bell curve of statistics, meaning there's definitely less likely scenarios than others. Their minis, get this. They have metal miniatures on their official site. I don't need to explain why that's awesome. It's metal. Less exciting is the fact that the miniature line isn't finished, but they had a very successful Kickstarter. Everything else is coming, just not now. I and the friend I play with have been subbing rules for things to things you want that aren't in the game, and it works fairly well, i.e. Skaven are actually orcs and the rat ogre thing is a troll, or my dart throwing Romans actually have slings. Also, I have a Roman army instead of a French or British one. Similarly, he has an early musket line, we agreed our crossbows, and less notably I have these goat ram riders that are subbed for ponies. This is pretty cheap among wargames. Miniature agnostic and generic means you might own good stuff for it already. I already mentioned I've been using Romans, and the other guy has been using mostly Lord of the Rings minis. I have been 3D printing to get my dwarf set up, but I had prior to the game a set of dwarf rangers, and was already planning those ram riders when I found the game. The only thing that changed was now I need to find a wizard and a sentinel fit for the army. The game does require tokens to mark action taken. I 3D printed some, and I used Magic the Gathering tokens that were on Thingiverse. But pennies, dimes, and nickels would work fine. Alternatively, any other tokens that you have, hell, use shields painted different colors. I can't be the only one with 30 shield in storage. Dice are dice, they are priced cheap, and terrain can be retrofitted from other games. If you already have D&D or Age of Sigmar, guys, the rules are your only real barrier to entry. Because this has turned into a bit of a review video, I should probably include a con section. One thing that stands out, not as many players. There are definitely players, but the same way most TTRPG groups use D&D because it's the rules that people already know. You are now the guy saying, trust me, Pathfinder is better, I just need you to read 100 pages of rules. I've only played with one other dude who describes or as like the Lord of the Rings wargame if someone, quote, made it fun. Also within the cons is no good list builder for the supplement. I know I mentioned the spreadsheet earlier, but even though this level of spreadsheet is pretty easy to learn, I bet you don't want to do that. So your alternative to learning Excel is doing your entire army's math by hand, which is simple addition and multiplication, but I'll bet a dime you still mess it up, and now adjusting your list after your initial setup is going to be properly annoying. The base sizes also have a weird inaccuracy. Their official miniature cavalry lines come with 40mm bases, but Baron's War says cavalry is 25 by 50mm pill-shaped bases. So technically, the base the figures come with are illegal because the supplement mentions nothing about changing base size. Now, I play with a guy who has his cavalry on 60mm bases, not pill-shaped, and it doesn't upset the game balance by much. But for rule sticklers, this is funky business right here. Similarly, I recommend downloading the errata and frequently asked questions. If you end up in a rules debate, this is more likely to answer your question than the primary book. For example, they forgot to allow anyone to equip battle axes, so in errata now you can do that. It's also worth observing, D10 system means you need a bunch of D10s, which are not as standard as D6s. I like my dice to look the same, so I ordered just a set of D10s on Amazon. That said, if you're a dice hoarder, you can probably pull D10s from some of your sets. It goes without saying, but being a generic fantasy game, there's nothing particularly unique within it, but now it's compatible with miniatures you already own, so I don't even consider that a con, it's just worth observing. Lastly, you kinda need a decent chunk of terrain. I own a 3D printer and have a terrain box, but do you have a terrain box? There is a reason every Warhammer battle happens in an identical set of ruins. It's because terrain's a pain to work out. That about sums up my thoughts. I'd tell you to go watch some Warhost content, but that's not a thing. This channel did do a set of Baron's War games if you want to see the rules and play, but my end card's gonna take you to my D&D campaign diary.